How's it going, guys? It's K Cars, and today I'm going to be talking about manual and automatic transmissions and which one is better. So obviously there's different uses for a manual transmission and an automatic transmission. So for a daily driver, probably an automatic transmission would be the best, because for daily driving you're most likely going to be sitting in traffic, and a manual transmission can be very annoying when you're sitting in traffic. And if you're curious to learn how to drive a manual transmission, this Jeep is actually manual, and I did a tutorial video about how to drive a manual transmission with this Jeep, and I'll link that in the description, so make sure to go check that video out. So like I said, for daily driving I'd probably get an automatic car, just because it would be annoying to have a manual car and sit in traffic. But if you're getting a car for performance, like if you're going to be in the drag strip or like road course or stuff like that, then you might want to get a manual car. So for drag racing, I wouldn't recommend manual. There's always people that are going to say manual is always faster, it can shift faster than any automatic if they're driving it, whatever. But in my opinion, I think if you get the right kind of car, the fast transmission, then it's definitely faster than a manual. So for drag racing, I would get an automatic, just because it'll be faster than a manual if it was me driving. Now, if you're gonna get a car and drive it on the road course, for example, then I'd say a manual car would be the best option, just because you have that full control over the transmission and you can shift whenever you want. And yeah, I know what you guys are thinking, you can still use the paddle shifters, but it's just a completely different experience if you're driving a manual car. Like with paddle shifters, all you do is hit the little buttons on the back of the steering wheel. But with a manual, you actually get that feeling of pushing in the clutch, downshifting, rev matching, and all that. So it's just a lot more fun, in my opinion, for a road course car. So like I said, this Jeep is a manual transmission. You can see it's a 6-speed manual. So for off-roading, I would say it's really just a personal preference if you want an automatic or manual. So a manual will give you a lot more control if you're rock crawling and stuff like that. So for example, if you're off-roading in an automatic, if you wouldn't want the transmission to just keep switching gears back and forth, you could have a manual and just keep it in whatever gear you want. Now obviously you could still do that with the automatic Jeeps. They come with the manual mode or whatever, where you can still keep it in gear, but I think a manual, like I said before, gives you a lot more control for that. So at the end of the day, guys, it really just comes down to a personal preference, and all I said, it's really just my opinion, guys. Like, some people might love having a manual car for drag racing. In my opinion, I would love to have an automatic, because I just think it would shift faster than I would be able to in a manual car. And for road course, in my opinion, I think a manual car would be fun, because you really don't have to shift gears that fast, and you get the full control of having a manual and being able to shift by yourself without the car doing it for you. And for daily driving, once again, it's really just a personal preference. If you enjoy driving a manual, then get a manual for daily driving. If you think it would be annoying to sit in traffic with a manual, then yeah, an automatic would be the way to go. And in my opinion, for daily driving, I would like to have an automatic, because I've sat in traffic in this Jeep with a manual transmission, and it is annoying. Or if you're on a hill and you're in a manual car, and if you don't have hill assist, it's really hard to get started on a hill if you don't know what you're doing. So this Jeep actually does have hill assist, and even in reverse, so that's extremely useful for me. Now, some people actually hate hill assist. They like using the e-brake and just letting it off whenever the car starts moving. But in my opinion, I like hill assist, because I learned how to drive manual in this Jeep, so I'm kind of used to it by now, and I think it's really useful to have hill assist. Of course, there's people who will always have manuals and people who will always have automatics. Now, there's different reasons for that. Some people think driving a manual is just more manly, or whatever they want to say. And the people that will always drive automatics, maybe they just don't know how to drive a manual, for example. Now, I thought I would always be the kind of guy to drive an automatic car, but that was before I actually learned how to drive a manual. I thought manual cars were completely useless and weren't going to be fun at all. Then I learned how to drive manual in this Jeep, and it actually became a lot more fun to drive it, because it gives you something to do. It gives you a lot more control, and when you're off-roading, you can pick exactly what gear you're on, and I just think it's more fun to have a manual like this. If you guys have seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I do have an automatic Challenger, and I'm planning to do a lot of drag racing in that car, so it's kind of useful to have an automatic for me. That's just my opinion. So if I had a manual Challenger, it would be a lot slower in the quarter mile because I'm not really that experienced with manual, and I know having an automatic would be a lot faster for me. So I'd like to hear some of your guys' opinions about manual versus automatic. So drop them down in the comments. Let me know if you guys prefer manual or automatic, or if you just prefer manual over automatic in certain settings like I do, for example. Or if you just prefer automatic all the time or manual all the time. Either way, let me know in the comments section. I'd really like to hear what your guys' preferences are when it comes to what kind of transmission you drive. And like I said before, if you're interested to learn how to drive a manual transmission, I did a tutorial with this Jeep a while back on my channel, so make sure to go check that video out. I'm going to link it in the description of this video. So of course, there's also the technical side of manual versus automatic. So manual transmissions are less complex and they weigh less. That also gives them better fuel efficiency, so you'll get more miles per gallon with a manual transmission, depending on how you drive it, of course. And one other thing that I wanted to point out is that the high-end supercars, they don't really come with manual transmissions unless you're looking at like the Porsche Carrera GT. But like the new supercars don't really come with manual transmissions. Usually they all have the pedal shifters with the dual clutch transmission. And I'm not really sure why they did that. Maybe it's because less and less people are driving manual transmissions. Or maybe they think that people driving a manual transmission in supercars like that won't really know how to drive it properly and will, like, I don't know, wear out the clutch really fast and then get discouraged and not even drive the car. But I don't know, there could be many reasons. Maybe because the dual clutch is just faster than the manual transmission. That's what I think, but I know some people are going to disagree with that because they think manuals are always faster. But I think if you have a dual clutch transmission, it's going to be faster than a manual. And that's the reason that I think most supercars these days come with the dual clutch automatic with the paddle shifters. And another thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about is that if someone wants to steal your car and it's a manual, then chances are they're going to have a tough time stealing it if they don't know how to drive a manual, obviously. So you also have that advantage with having a manual car. So like I said before, make sure you guys comment and let me know what kind of transmission you guys prefer, manual or automatic. And if you found this video informative or liked it or enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out some of my other car related videos. I'm sure you guys will probably enjoy them. And as always, thanks for watching.